I'm 38, and until a year ago I thought I had a pretty ordinary life. Married for 11 years, one kid, stable job, mortgage, the whole predictable package. My wife, Lena, and I weren't perfect, but we were solid. Or at least I believed we were. We met in our mid-20s, built everything together from scratch. I trusted her more than anyone. She knew things about me I'd never told another person. I thought that meant something permanent. Looking back now, I think the scariest part is how normal everything felt before it all fell apart. Our evenings were routine, dinner, TV, sometimes talking about our son's school or future plans. There were no huge fights, no dramatic breakdowns. If anything, we were just comfortable. I used to think comfort was the goal. Now I'm not so sure. Because the truth is, everything that came after didn't start with a big explosion. It started quietly, almost invisibly. And by the time I noticed something was wrong, it was already too late. It started with small things I brushed off. Lena began spending more time on her phone. Not in a suspicious, obvious way, just enough to feel slightly off. She'd smile at messages, then quickly lock the screen if I walked by. I told myself I was imagining it. We'd both been busy. Stress at work, parenting, life. People change. That's what I kept repeating in my head. She also started going out more. Just catching up with friends, she'd say. And I believed her, because why wouldn't I? I didn't want to be the jealous husband. I prided myself on trust. On being different. There was one night I remember clearly. She came home late, past midnight, and smelled like a perfume she didn't usually wear. When I asked, she laughed it off. Someone sprayed it on me at the bar, she said. It sounded ridiculous, but I let it go. Because the alternative, that something was actually wrong, felt worse than pretending everything was fine. The thing about denial is that it feels like control. If you don't acknowledge the problem, then it doesn't exist. That's how I lived for months. Lena grew more distant, but never enough to trigger a full confrontation. She still said, "I love you." Still kissed me goodbye in the mornings. Still played her role. And I played mine. We even went on a family trip during that time. Smiling photos, laughter, the illusion of a happy life. I remember looking at those pictures later and feeling physically sick. Because I now know what was happening behind the scenes. But back then, I clung to every normal moment like proof that we were okay. There were red flags, sure. Her phone always face down. New passwords. Sudden interest in going to the gym alone. I noticed everything. And ignored it all. I think deep down, I was afraid of what I'd find if I stopped pretending. The turning point wasn't dramatic. No shouting, no confession. It was a message. I was using Lena's laptop one evening while mine updated. Her phone buzzed nearby, and I didn't even mean to look at it at first. But the notification preview popped up. "Miss you already? Tonight was perfect." No name saved. Just a number. I stared at it for what felt like minutes. My heart didn't race like in movies. It just dropped. Like something heavy sinking inside my chest. I told myself there had to be an explanation. A friend. A joke. Anything. But something in me already knew. I picked up the phone. And for the first time in our entire relationship, I crossed a line I never thought I would. I unlocked it and started reading. What I found wasn't just a mistake. It was a whole other relationship. Messages going back months. Maybe longer. Conversations, inside jokes, plans. Photos I wish I could erase from my memory. They talked like a couple. Not something casual. Not a fling. Something real. My hands were shaking as I scrolled. I remember feeling cold, even though the room was warm. And then I saw his name. At first, it didn't register. Then it hit me. It was someone I knew. Not just knew, someone from my past. An old classmate. We weren't close, but we'd shared years in the same environment. I remembered him clearly. And I remembered something else. He used to joke about how lucky I was. My life, my relationship. He'd say he wished he had what I had. At the time, I thought it was harmless. Now, it felt like something else entirely. I didn't confront her immediately. I wish I could say I handled it with dignity, but the truth is I froze. I spent hours that night reading everything, piecing together a timeline, learning details I never wanted to know. They had been meeting regularly. Not just for quick encounters, dinners, long conversations, entire evenings together. It wasn't just physical. That's what hurt the most. She wasn't just cheating. She was sharing parts of herself with him that I thought were mine. Things we used to talk about. Dreams, fears, complaints about me. I saw my own life through their messages, twisted into something unrecognizable. And the worst part? She sounded happy. Happier than I'd seen her in years. I sat there until the early morning, staring at that screen, feeling like a stranger in my own life. When Lena woke up, I was still sitting in the living room. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. She walked in, saw me, and immediately knew something was wrong. "What happened?" she asked. I didn't answer right away. I just held up her phone. For a second, she didn't react. Then her face changed. Not confusion. Not anger. Guilt. That was the moment everything became real. I remember my voice sounding strange when I finally spoke. "How long?" She didn't answer. "How long, Lena?" 6 months, she whispered. 6 months. Half a year of lies. Of pretending. Of living a double life right in front of me. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I didn't know what else to do. The confrontation was messy. There's no clean way to describe it. I asked questions I didn't want answers to. She gave explanations that only made things worse. "It didn't mean to happen," she said. "I still love you. It's complicated." That word, complicated, felt like an insult. Because to me, it wasn't complicated at all. She betrayed me. End of story. But she kept talking, trying to explain feelings, confusion, emotional distance between us. Blaming things without directly blaming me. And then she said something that stuck with me. "I didn't plan it. It just happened." I remember thinking how easy that sounded. How simple it made something so destructive. Like our entire life together could just happen into being destroyed. I asked her who he was. Not his name, I already knew that. I wanted to know what he meant to her. She hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. "He understands me," she finally said. I felt something inside me break at that moment. Because I thought I understood her. I thought that was the whole point of being married for over a decade. I asked if she loved him. She didn't answer. Again, that silence said more than words. And then I said it. "I know him." That's when she looked genuinely shocked. I told her his name. Her reaction confirmed it. She hadn't told him about me, at least not fully. Or maybe she had, and they just didn't care. Either way, it made everything feel even worse. More personal. More deliberate. I reached out to him. I don't know why. Maybe I needed to hear it from him. Maybe I wanted to understand. Or maybe I just wanted to hurt him. He replied surprisingly quickly. We agreed to meet. Seeing him again after all those years was surreal. He looked older, of course, but still familiar. And weirdly calm. We sat across from each other like two strangers pretending to be civil. "I didn't expect this," he said. I almost laughed. "Really?" I replied. "You didn't expect her husband to find out?" He didn't argue. Instead, he said something that I'll never forget. "I always envied you." That line echoed in my head. At the time, I didn't fully understand what he meant. Now I do. He told me everything from his side. We sat there for what must have been over an hour, maybe more. Time felt distorted, like I was watching someone else's life play out in front of me. He said they reconnected through social media. A random comment, a message, nothing unusual. He made it sound almost innocent at first, like it could have been anyone. "We just started talking," he said. "Catching up." I nodded, even though every word felt like a knife. He told me she opened up quickly. That she talked about feeling stuck, about our routines, about how she felt invisible sometimes. Hearing that hurt more than I expected. Because I didn't know she felt that way. Or maybe I didn't want to know. He said he listened. That was his role at first. Just someone who paid attention, who responded, who made her feel heard. Then the conversations got deeper. More personal. Late-night messages. Private jokes. Emotional dependency. "I didn't mean for it to become what it became," he said. I looked at him and asked. "But it did." He nodded. And then he admitted something that stayed with me. "She talked about you a lot." That sentence hit harder than anything else. Not because she mentioned me, but because I had no idea what version of me she had created in his mind. I asked him what she said about me. He hesitated at first, like he was deciding how much damage he wanted to do. "Be honest," I said. "I deserve that at least." He exhaled slowly. "She said you were a good man," he began. "A stable one. Reliable." I almost laughed. "That sounds great," I said. "What's the problem then?" He looked down at the table before continuing. "She said you stopped seeing her? That you were there, but not really there." That one stung. Because it wasn't entirely false. Life had gotten busy. Work, responsibilities, routines. I thought being present physically was enough. I thought providing stability meant I was doing my job as a husband. But apparently, that wasn't what she needed. "She said she felt alone," he added. I sat there, trying to process that. All those nights we spent in the same room. All those conversations I thought were enough. And yet, in her mind, she was already by herself. He leaned back and looked at me. "I didn't steal her," he said quietly. "She was already leaving." I wanted to punch him. Not just because of what he did, but because a part of me was afraid he might be right. After that conversation, I went home and just sat in the car for a long time. I couldn't bring myself to go inside. Everything felt altered. Like the life waiting behind that door wasn't mine anymore. When I finally walked in, Lena was there. Sitting at the kitchen table, staring at nothing. She looked up when she heard me. "Did you see him?" she asked. I nodded. We didn't speak for a while. The silence between us was heavier than any argument. Then I asked her the question that had been building inside me all day. "Were you already unhappy before him?" She closed her eyes. That was enough of an answer. But she spoke anyway. "I didn't know how to say it," she whispered. "I didn't even fully understand it myself." I felt anger rise up again. "So instead of talking to me, you found someone else?" Tears started running down her face. "I didn't go looking for it," she said. "It just happened." That phrase again. I hated it. Because it made everything sound like an accident. Like she had no control. But she did. Every message. Every meeting. Every lie. Those were choices. The days that followed were some of the hardest of my life. We tried to coexist under the same roof, but everything felt wrong. Every interaction was strained. Artificial. We'd sit in the same room but feel miles apart. At night I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying everything, the messages, her words, his voice. I started questioning everything about myself. Was I really that distant? Had I ignored her for so long that she felt she had no other option? Or was that just a convenient excuse for what she did? I didn't know what to believe anymore. One night, we tried to have a real conversation. No yelling. No accusations. Just honesty. "I need to know something," I said. "If I had been better, would this have happened?" She looked at me with a kind of sadness I'll never forget. I don't know, she said. That answer destroyed me more than anything else. Because it meant there was no clear reason. No simple cause. Just a slow breakdown neither of us fully understood until it was too late. Eventually, we reached the point where staying together felt more painful than separating. There wasn't one final fight. No dramatic ending. Just exhaustion. Emotional burnout. We had nothing left to give each other. When she packed her things, it didn't feel real. I watched her move through the house, taking pieces of our life with her. Small things that suddenly felt significant. Photos. Books. Clothes. Memories. Our son didn't fully understand what was happening, and that was the worst part. Trying to explain something so complicated in a way that wouldn't break him. We're just going to live in different places, I told him. Even saying that felt like a lie. Because it wasn't just about living arrangements. It was the collapse of a family. After she left, the house felt empty in a way I can't fully describe. Not just quiet, hollow. And that's when his words finally made sense. I always envied you. At first, I thought he envied my life. But now I understand. He envied the illusion of it. And maybe, so did I.